Welcome into Monday Mornings with Matt and Kevin here on the Catholic Family Podcast. These two will debate real-life issues from a Catholic perspective every Monday at 9 Eastern. Topics that come up around the dinner table will be given the truth treatment with no punches held and no falsehood left standing. Sit back, relax, grab your cup of coffee, and enjoy the show. Here are your hosts, Matt and Kevin.
It's Monday.
Mamas and the Papas.
Yeah, it's something like that. I don't know. It's feeling like it. Well, it's actually not. We're recording on a Sunday. I had a friend of mine, Matt. This is a really high praise. He came up to me the other day. He's like, I don't know how you and Matt do it because I know you record on Sundays, but you actually make it feel like a Monday morning. I was like, hey,
incredible
technology. I know, right? It's pretty cool. I was like, hey, that's what we do, Because honestly, if it was me recording on a Monday morning, I'd probably be like,
it would be very early, Kev.
It
would almost
family.
Yeah. The Catholic Nightly Family Podcast.
Yeah, it'd be rough.
Night edition.
Man, my Nuggets play Game 7. And of course, thank you, NBA. It starts at 2 a.m. So thanks a lot for that, NBA. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe get up at 4 a.m. I honestly don't know. Rough. But
yeah.
So in Germany, we have 2 days for Pentecost. So we literally have 2 holidays, 2 holy days. So we're off of work.
In Germany.
But it's a holy day of obligation. Yeah. So they do 2 days of Pentecost, 2 days of Easter. They just they like their holy days.
Well, so you get Monday and Tuesday?
No, just Monday. So today's a holy day. Or today's Sunday, and tomorrow is a holy day and holiday, so it's off of work. But we're obliged to go to mass. So. Gotcha. Interesting, yeah. But
how do the Protestants out there take this?
They appreciate the day off. I would imagine most Catholics, in name, just say, oh, hey, it's a holiday. But well, for us, we have to drive an hour to mass, and it's of course I appreciate that, but it's not really an off day. Let's just say that. But,
it's funny. This is so just to kind of comment on what you just said there. I have about the same drive, about an hour mass.
Yeah.
And I thought that was long because for the longest time of my life, I used to go about 5 minutes away and then 10 minutes away. And then so everything was around that time span. So when I've seen people online say there's no mass in their state or or people who I know people on Twitter. Yeah. I was going to say right? Yeah. People Crazy. On Twitter who a priest flies in once a month. Wow, it really keeps perspective here.
Whew, totally. No, that's absolutely right. And it's a great point to say the perspective of, there are days where it's like, oh, yeah, okay, we have to go 2 days, drive all the way with the kids to mass. But you're absolutely right. It's like, okay, but wait, we have mass, we have the sacraments. It really definitely is something we have to keep in mind because our fallen human nature is kind of like, but
we always want the easy way. Yeah.
Yeah. This is definitely better. We just recorded this last week, a podcast about dopamine, the dopamine effects and how dopamine works in our body. Really interesting. Hopefully we'll publish that this week. Really, really, really interesting. Just to plug that. Hopefully, again, that'll come out sometime this week. Father McKenna and Dr. Dan Stanislavski, who did his PhD thesis on the dopamine theory of theory of behavior, dopamine theory.
What do you think? Really what do you think the world would look like if the internet just went out?
You'd have a lot of
the Simpsons
zombies.
Predicted this.
Yeah.
The Simpsons. Yes. So keep your eyes peeled.
Well, it's probably going to happen. Yeah, it's a really good question. I think you would have for the first week or two, you'd have people literally not knowing what to do. Maybe for months. It's actually a good question, but I think in the end, you'd have a probably happier world.
They'd have to take out their old. Remember the phone book?
I do. Yeah.
The phone book, the yellow pages.
Take out the
how we existed back then.
Yeah, yellow pages and library.
You want pizza? Yeah.
Dictionaries and encyclopedias. That was.
I actually have. I don't want to say collecting, but I've started ordering books, Catholic books. Yeah, off the internet, correct. That were printed in the 30s, just because I don't know. There's something about I don't know. I like hard-covered books, and I like this is strange. Don't laugh, but there's a smell to them.
Yeah,
and I like
a little bit of mildew.
Yeah,
but in a good way. Yeah.
This is Christ Church, that popular Van Noort, and it's from the 40s, I think, and just it smells like a basement. I love it. One of my favorites. Maybe we can get one of those billboards to spit out basement. Remember the McDonald's French fries ones?
Yeah, right. exactly. The smell of French fries. Yeah, right.
It's an old book.
Stick this old book in that machine, and I suppose you'll get the same effort. You're gonna have some weird billboards around, the old bookstores and stuff. I suppose.
Have you seen that portal, Kev, where it's like it connects New York City to?
Yeah, and it's exactly what you would expect happen. People flipping each other off, and all these types of things. Like, yeah, it's pretty
doing
much
very inappropriate things. I saw, like,
it's exactly what you would expect on
society is
society.
Not very professional.
Yeah, well, and because you're not traceable online. You are traceable, at least to an extent. So, yeah,
that's why we got away with this, kids.
Yeah,
who's gonna know? Who's gonna see?
Who's gonna find?
Who's gonna see?
Exactly.
Too many cameras. Did you ever hear that video of this old time guy? And he was like, back in my day, we used to go to the store and get bread, milk, eggs, and cheese for all a penny. Can't do that anymore. Too many cameras.
Nice. Oh man, you gotta love it. No, it's interesting, and boy, I think that our best shows are when we just talk about nothing for the first 5 minutes. But we do today want to talk. We actually have 5.5 minutes. Some pretty interesting topics. One of them is just kind of a.
We say that every time.
We say that every time. Interesting topics.
Very interesting topics today.
We always talk about good stuff. Now, usually we have no idea what we're going to talk about until 5 minutes before. But we actually had a little longer because you were sick last week, so.
Yes.
We want to talk.
Thank you to your wife for filling in.
No, she did a really good job. Basti. I have my 2-year-old son on my lap, so that's going to make this an interesting show. We want to talk about the 15 worst tech predictions of all time. Pretty interesting what people thought would not work out before they actually did. So we're going to talk about that. So the top 15, Basti. Hey, don't. And we're also going to talk the show. We're going to start talking about Harrison Butker of the Chiefs. I know we talked about that. We did a whole show with my dad about that this week as well. So we're not going to go too long on it, but it's interesting because Matt and I talked very briefly before the show, and I wouldn't say we necessarily even disagreed about it, but it was interesting enough. It's like, hey, let's just talk about that, on the podcast. So we're going to do that. And I guess, Matt, I don't think we probably need to tell people exactly what we're talking about this way. It was a huge, my wife asked me that. She's like, I heard it was a big story. It's like, man, it was like the biggest story in America. It seemed like for a day or two.
Jerseys are selling out. Yeah. It's on The View. I mean, everybody watches The View. I mean, it's probably one of the most popular shows. Like, I already have tomorrow's episode recorded. Yeah.
Man, it's got Whoopi. I watch it. Yep.
Yeah, you're right. Where she is, I am. Man, that's right.
Oh yeah. That's
I guess our point of I actually didn't watch the well, I heard tidbits of it, but I read the transcript, and I think the point that you and I kind of agreed on first and foremost was a little bit of that part of staying in your lane. And that, and I asked you this before we came on, like, if you were an attendee of that graduation and an NFL player was coming to address you, would you expect those would be the topics that were brought up? And I feel like I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, but I would have liked it. I wouldn't have expected it, but I would have appreciated a guy who is a football player, who's in the public eye for a very different reason than theology, coming up there and spitting truth. I mean, I don't agree 100% with everything he said, but I thought he was spot on. I mean, I thought he did a great job. And I think the only thing, again, we talked about it before the show, is I think the one thing I'd say, don't come out and say, hey, everyone stay in your lane, and then like 2 seconds later criticize your bishops. It's like, well,
here's I want to put a twist on this. So if you read Traditionis Custodes, Francis's work on the traditional mass, if you actually read that from a sedevacantist perspective, Francis is completely correct. He was like, we gave them the old liturgy, but it almost turned into two opposing churches with opposing doctrines. And for the sake of unity of the church, we have to suppress this group. And if you think about it from an actual Catholic perspective, he's right. And so what I noticed in a lot of Harrison Buckner's speeches and words is that he promoted the Latin Mass, which is one. Okay, I guess that's a start. And two, he also criticized Joe Biden and leaders of the church in America, whom Francis has called a Catholic in good standing, who Francis has said is a good Catholic, who Francis has sided with and endorsed and supported on a few occasions, had audience with. So I think there is that danger there to kind of, and I'd hate to call it a danger, but I think when you recognize that the new mass is not of the church, and that the Second Vatican Council does contain error, you have to make your logical conclusion that they can't come from the authority of the church. And when you do what Buckner did, you kind of pit people against the authority of the church, which would be schismatic. So I think there's that. You have to be careful, because I think people are well intended, and I think they want those 2,000-year-old traditions in our faith. But we have to make sure we're in line with all of Catholic teaching as well. And I think that sort of position, that route that he pushed, was my route, and I think it worked out for me, but it might not work out for everybody. And there are people who would resist harder and push back harder and fight harder. I did that. You stand in the parking lot and you protest. So I think he ignited a spark in a lot of these people, whereas to say, we have to fight for our faith, but do we fight the hierarchy of the church? That's completely wrong. And I think there was that subliminal message in his speech that we have to take the faith back from the hierarchy, which of course is completely foreign to Catholicism. So I think there's that danger there to implement on people's minds.
I mean, he called out the hierarchy, he called out the bishops and the priests for not doing their job,
which would be crazy to do. And I think that was Fulton Sheen's gravest error, where he said that the church, the eyes of the church are you. It's up to you to. That's completely wrong.
But what are you supposed? I mean, I'm with you. So I mean, I see what you're saying. You're right. Like,
it should have been Mario Dirksen giving the speech.
Right, exactly. In the perfect world, he just understands it all. He just gets it. He understands. Okay, I'm just going to say, hey, look, I don't have to listen to them because they're not my hierarchy. But I mean, in his eyes, this is a guy who clearly understands what the church should be. Like, he gets it. He understands the church should be the Latin Mass. The church should be traditional values. The church should be this, and this. But what he doesn't understand is that it can't be the church if it's not. But that's something that's something that I totally you of course understand that is a hard thing to come to say, okay, that is just not the church at all. I mean, so that's, I understand that he hasn't gotten there, and I think that, again, I don't like that he's like, yeah, stay in your lane, but criticize the bishops. Yeah, that doesn't quite fit. But otherwise, I mean, I think he's a guy who saw, I have maybe one chance in my life, probably one chance ever, to really say the things that I think really matter, which means, hey, the what's going on, the women need to remember what their vocations, can be, as mothers, we need to not, abort babies, not have the in vitro stuff. I mean, and he also said, hey, I'm on this platform and I want to say that our bishops and priests need to do better. And obviously, objectively, he's right. But yeah, is he the one who should be saying that? No. But in this situation, I mean, should you and I be doing podcasts about, talking about anything about theology? It is a hard line, and it is a non-perfect situation.
He also, and I went through this, I was there, he pushed Latin Massism, which again we have our critiques with. And was it like a rallying cry to resist harder, as I kind of said before? And I think he even brought up, and I don't want to misquote him or misrepresent his words, so I want to put that out there before I continue what I'm saying here. But I think he said his faith changed when he left the Novus Ordo and started attending the traditional Mass and all of that. And again, if you think about it, to say such a thing is condemned under Trent. That is the Novus Ordo an incentive to impiety, or an incentive? What's the phrase? You know what I'm saying?
Well, what I remember he said,
an impairment.
He said that the Latin Mass that will help you to order your life. It isn't. But
why wouldn't the Novus Ordo
to order things? Yeah, but see, again, we are looking.
You can't say that.
I see what you're saying. I mean, but again,
this is condemned under Trent to say that liturgy is.
Yeah, but he's not Taylor Marshall. This is not Mario Dirksen. This is a guy who he understands this is what the church should be, and this is not what they're doing. He hasn't reached the point where he can say, yeah, it's exactly. And it was I mean, I think we've become too cynical in a society where it's like, you see, it's like everyone's saying Donald Trump is the Antichrist. It's like, I don't like Donald Trump. I think he's a rude, crude guy who makes a lot of mistakes and was not as strong in office as he's promised he would be. But he also did do some good things, and I think it's a cynical thing that we've all gotten to a point where, unless it's like perfect, unless it's Mario Dirksen who has a footnote for a footnote for a footnote of all the things he does. And I mean, again, I say that with love and respect. I love Mario, and I mean, but unless it's that, people are just kind of like, oh no, this guy, it's probably a plan. I bet you this is part of the big conspiracy. And I'm not saying you're saying that, but I think that eventually we got to stop being so cynical. I think we got to say, hey, look, yeah, this was not perfect. He has not completely understood the situation, but he did say good things that got a lot of national attention, which I think that is a win. It wasn't perfect, but I think as a whole, it was a win.
Okay. I hate to say I see the danger, but what he has done, and again, and I don't mean to say that he did this with wrong intentions, and because I would have been him, I would have said those exact things, and I did and believed and felt those exact things. But again, I sort of saw it as that rally cry of rally the troops that you would hear about in a SSPX parking lot or an FSSP parking lot of, we got to raise our banners and march against the church and make sure that they get back on track. And that is nowhere near in line with the Catholic doctrine at all. And I think, as we've said, that the Latin Mass, that doesn't save you. The Catholic faith does. And so if you start to creep in this mindset of resisting your hierarchy and opposing them and correcting them, well, you're starting to lose doctrines and dogmas that the church has always taught too. So I think there is that danger there of chasing liturgy and forsaking doctrines. But
yeah, and I think again though, if that's coming from someone who, again, if it's coming from a Vigano or a Taylor Marshall or someone like that, then I think it's kind of like, yeah, okay, man, come on, But I mean, he's a guy who I see him as a much lower. He is speaking to a much less understanding audience. He's being talked about on The View, for goodness sake. So The View is picking up his words and saying the Latin Mass. What's he even talking? So I think it's just a lower denominator almost of what we're talking about. I'm not saying it's necessarily right or perfect. I'd be really curious to hear. I mean, maybe a priest has watched it. I think it's a really interesting thing, and I bet you even priests might have different opinions on it. If it was sure. proper or not. I think it is a hard thing because it is the danger. I totally see what you're saying. There is a danger of R&R in it, and I heard someone tell me today that he does go to the SSPX. That is totally not confirmed. That is just what someone told me today. I don't know if that's true or not, but it would make sense because, as you said, his speech did definitely contain, topics that are very recognize and resist. But I think that as a whole, with the speech, I think it's still worth it. He still was a guy who brought up things like abortion, like IVF, like the role of women, that we should follow our vocations, do hard work. And I think most of the stuff he said was absolutely unquestionably good. And I think again, for him to be put up on somewhere like The View, I think that's a win. I just do. I mean, I think that's but I see what you're saying though. I think there is, for those in the SSPX or otherwise are probably like, yeah, that's our boy. And it's kind of like, well, yeah, okay, but hold on.
I think what we were saying this too is he had an unlikely, in my opinion, defense in Bill Maher, who I thought was an interesting voice to come out in this. I have the quote here, Kev. So Bill Maher came out in defense of him, and he said, here's the actual quote from the Hollywood Reporter. I don't get, hang on here. I don't get the thing he said talking to women. Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world. Okay, that seems fairly modern, Maher said before continuing. But I would venture to guess that the majority of you women are most excited about your marriage and excited about the children you would bring into this world. I don't see what the big crime of thinking, feeling that way is. I really don't. I think this is part of the problem that people have with the left today. It's that a lot of people in this country are like this. He's saying some of you may have successful careers, but a lot of you are also excited about the other way around. And people can be used to that too, right? Can't this just be a choice? I feel like they've put up, and I feel like they've, sorry, why can't I read here? Got my blue glasses on, I can't see. And I feel like they feel very put upon, like there's only one way to be a good person, and that's only to get an advanced degree. I think, and I think he's right there. Let me put my blue light glasses back on.
So and I imagine Bill
2015 vision.
I imagine Bill Maher is not. He's not seeing that in views of they should follow their vocations and have children. But right, he's saying, hey, look, people can do different things than what you want to do, and that's the crazy thing. People coming out and just blasting Butker for this, and it's like, I mean, yeah, I get it because he did attack, their sacred sacraments, the sacred sacraments of the devil, those things of like abortion, IVF, feminism. I mean, these really are like, that's their beliefs. I mean, that and I'm sorry if I say sacraments. I mean, I don't want to be sacrilegious, but you know what I mean? I'm saying literally the worst possible. They're the flip. They're the mockery of the true sacraments, and it really is what they worship. They worship abortion. They worship feminism. Yes. This is what they're almost their entire belief system is built on people like those on The View, and so it makes sense that they are just losing their minds over it, of course.
And they've misquoted him already. There's quotes going around that says that he said that women belong in the kitchen. That's nowhere in the speech at all. And that has made its rounds of people saying, like, look at what he said. Can you believe he said this? There's talk about the Chiefs releasing him.
No way.
So it's hard to tell what is authentic and what is not. But he, like you said, the conversation is now out there.
Yeah.
And
which is cool
to talk about. Yeah. I think those are two starting points.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, again, you're right though. If you go up another level, I also heard today. I listened to Taylor Marshall's perspective of it, which is what you would expect. And apparently, Butker is the one who produced the Massive Ages movies. I don't know if you've watched those.
I do think I've heard a connection.
I didn't know he was connected to that, and I mean, I think he even appeared in one. I watched the first two. I've not watched the third. Certainly not worth anybody's time. I mean, it's exactly what you'd expect. They have some really good things to say and draw absolutely terrible conclusions. Yeah. I mean, just like, guys, wait, no, that's not. But we've talked about this on the show before. Watch the first half,
which is the good part,
second
right?
movie. It's fantastic. I mean, really, really well done. They go through exactly how Vatican II wiped away the prayers of the Mass. And it's awesome. It's really great how they do it. They really show the Vatican II changed the liturgy drastically. And then they get to the second half of the movie and it's all drawing the conclusions of like, but no, it was Bugnini and the popes didn't have anything to do with it. They didn't even know what was going on. Paul VI was this really nice guy who was he was more dealing with world issues than with, Vatican II itself. And it was very strange, their conclusions. But anyway, yeah, I mean, what else can you say about Butker? I think everyone had their own opinions on it. I definitely think it was an overall good thing to get these things talked about and to have people who, who knows if you're a Chiefs fan even, and you're like, oh, this is my kicker talking about IVF being immoral. I don't think people think about these things. I think most people don't. They don't even consider, that women should, okay. First of all, the highest vocation is being a nun, but that's, as we talked about before the show, it's not really considered at all these days. I mean, it should be, but just the thought that women should be in the home and they should be mothers, and that is far, far, far more important and harder than them being in the workforce. People just can't talk about that anymore, and that's including traditional Catholics. I know for sure there are people right now plugging up their ears, being like, "No, I can't hear it." No, it's sorry. Sorry, I know we talked about it on the show, man. I've gotten roasted a couple times.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Then what are they listening for?
I don't know. Those ones probably left.
Turn on serious political left or something.
Yeah, exactly.
This is Oprah Network.
Or The View. Yeah, exactly. Go watch The View. Cool. No, Matt. So we're gonna kind of flip topics to a definitely less serious one. But it's one. This
one is fun. I'll read this through.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's fun. This is one I've been looking forward to. We wanted to do a couple weeks ago, but it's funny because it's one of these things that it's really unfair because we're judging these people who made mistakes, at the time before they knew what was going to happen, and we probably would have done the same. So it's kind of like, oh, these idiots, But it's all in hindsight, but it is pretty funny. Right. Some of these are like, oh man, you idiot. But yeah.
There's an old saying that goes, predicting the future is easy, getting it right is the hard part. And that comes from Forbes magazine, the 15 worst tech predictions of all time. And I've got them right here, Kev. Nice. So I hope nobody tuned off after our comments there and they stayed for this part here. So before I go into the list, the Forbes magazine article opens up. It's saying there are some predictions that have become famous simply by how wrong they were and how wrong they turned out to be. IBM chairman Thomas Watson said in 1943 there is a world market for maybe 5 computers to be sold across the globe. But here we go. The top 15 technology predictions spanning the last 150-ish years that didn't quite turn out as expected. All right. Here's one. So this is 1876. The Americans, this is from actually the British Post Office. The Americans have need of a telephone, but we here in Britain, we do not, because we have plenty of messenger boys.
That's awesome.
That is William Preach, British Post Office, higher up there in 1876. So why have a telephone when you have young men running around with notes to deliver to people? Why would you need a phone for when that exists? Imagine if I needed to get you a note, Kev, the guy'd be swimming.
Yeah, right. You know what's crazy? This is what actually is pretty wild to me. I mean, I worked at the post office for a bit. Did the post office still exists and still flourishes? Like, it's gotten bigger. Like I think they deliver quite a lot more mail now than they ever did.
The post office fascinates me.
Pretty wild, isn't it? It's like I would not have thought that 10 years ago. I've been like, no, that they're going to be that they will not exist in 2024, but they certainly do.
Think about it though. I mean, technology, of course, has helped with Google Maps and Apple Maps and all these things. But to think that like I could put a letter in a local mailbox and it can end up in a precise mailbox on the other side of the country in a few days is fascinating to me. Yeah. The logistics of that is I don't even know how they sort that out and how they kind of, all right, this box is going to Florida, this is going to Canada, this is going to Alaska, this is going to Hawaii, and it's all going to get there in 3 days. Nobody panic. Crazy. All right. 1876, the president of Western Union said the telephone, he has it in quotes here, kind of like he rolled his eyes, the telephone has way too many shortcomings to be seriously considered a means of communication. In this modern age. So there's one.
But see, I wonder what the shortcomings, what were they in the 70s?
Yeah, right. Were they glitching?
So now it's kind of like, yeah, come on, telephone. That's way old school. But I mean, back in the day, right? There probably were things that were like, oh, this is
right. That wasn't working and frustrating. Right.
Yeah, it's probably like you probably talked on the phone. And it was like,
right. Which this is annoying. Forget it.
Yeah.
Where's put those men on bikes and let them deliver the note? Here's one from Thomas Edison in 1889. Fooling around with air condition AC is a waste of time because nobody will ever use it.
No, it's not AC. It's alternating current.
Alternating current, AC. Oh, you're right. How did you know? Oh, you pulled it up?
I mean, air conditioning.
My fault.
Good thing I pulled it up. Fact check. Fake news. Fake news.
My fault. I got to take these glasses off. I have these little things, and it's my.
Can't read it.
Can't read.
No,
fooling around with alternating current AC. Yes, it's just a waste of time. Nobody will ever use it.
Well, it's funny because he was wasn't he the one who was part of trying to do DC, the direct
current? Right.
But direct current's much more dangerous, and I know so he's another one. We should do a show just on Thomas Edison. I think he could be one of the most evil people of the 20th century.
Yes,
he was almost highly a murderer. Certainly not the one who invented all these things that he says he did. And somehow he just got the people to write about it. It's really wild. He is perhaps the most misconstrued, not misconstrued. The
he's
most
always put
misrepresented.
On a pedestal.
Yeah,
I agree.
He's like the greatest American, one of the greatest Americans. No, he was.
Everybody does a project on him as a 10-year-old. Here's my Thomas Edison presentation.
Yep, that's it.
The greatest minds to ever live.
Yep.
Here's what. Speaking of like banks and all of that, and post office, whatever. The horse is here to stay, but the automobile is only a novelty, a fad. Henry Ford over there, Ford Motor Company. The car is such a novelty. So we're delivering messages on paper without a telephone on a horse because who wants a car these days?
Did you know?
Imagine going to Mass on a horse.
Oh, now see, that would be drive. Awesome. Man, that would be awesome. Okay, yeah, not if it's an hour away, you'd be going for a day. But man, can you imagine like if you could go to Mass and you're the next village over and you're just riding a horse?
On your horse on your car.
Come on, you're dressed to the nines, and you're riding a horse or a carriage or something. Man, that there is definitely there's something that on the other side. This is something I heard a bit ago that in New York City back in 1895, let's say, I don't remember the year, that they had such an issue with the amount of horse poop in the streets that it was like a pandemic. It was like they couldn't figure out how to actually get around New York because there was too much horse poop, and they couldn't figure out how to get it out of the city. So I guess it kind of struck me as like maybe that's why Henry Ford's like, maybe we need to find another solution that doesn't poop on our streets. Anyway.
Oh man. All right. Let's see. Where do we leave off that one there? So let me scroll. 1946. Right? Did I skip one? 1921. So I don't really get this one. The wireless music box has no imaginable commercial value. Who would pay for a message sent to no one in particular? I don't really.
I assume they're saying like almost like
a music box.
Yeah, wireless music.
A wireless music box,
radio,
like a radio. It has no commercial value.
Yeah, that is.
Oh, who would pay? All right, who would pay for a message sent to no one in particular, like an advertisement? Right. Why are you
would
market
market?
To? Okay,
yeah, exactly. Which, well, yeah, that's you're a little wrong. Yep.
Just 30 years after that fact, people were listening to Vin Scully call Dodger games in the 50s.
The greatest of all time.
On their horse. 1946, television. I like this one. Daryl Zanuck of 20th Century Fox. Television won't be able to hold on to any market it captures after the first 6 months. People will soon get tired of staring at a plywood box every night. That is one of many predictions about the television. There's one that's similar to this that it's not on the list here, but one of the founders of, I forget what company it was, but he said that Americans are simply too busy to come home at night and watch a television in their corner. Now, I think that like in this day and age, 2024, Tragic. I think the television has kind of made its way out for tablets, iPads. People stream. It's not like the centerpiece of the home as it was maybe in the 80s or the 90s or the 70s, or or everybody had that big box TV in the corner of their family room, whatever, and it was just on, and you saw programs and news and sports, and I don't know. I think I can see it not being a thing in the future.
Agreed. Not for the right reasons. I think this one, first of all, this guy's 20th Century Fox. He was probably the guy who owned movie theaters, so it's obviously clear why he's making that statement. But I think it's also an interesting thing when you consider that back in the 1940s, people were they were way more active. They had just finished a war. You probably, time, right? I think that's probably true. And just the fact that, it came in, you used to have like 3 channels, and you probably watched a football game once a week or something. So it wasn't a big deal until maybe 10, 15 years later. But it is tragic what it became, right? I mean, now you call people couch potatoes because that's all they do.
There was, I don't think it's a thing anymore, but I remember growing up, like people had televisions in their kitchens. Like they would have one on the kitchen counter because while you were cooking or preparing your dinner or whatever, the television was on. That small little TV was on like that.
Well, and again, everyone stay tuned for the dopamine podcast because it's going to cover this type of stuff of how they got these things to work. Really, really, really.
Can't miss the view.
Yeah.
Can't miss the view. Need to make sure we get all that.
Doesn't matter if you're in the in the bathroom, in the kitchen, you gotta
have to hear her, Barbara Walters, and hello everyone. All right, the next one here, I think this is a little strange. 1955, president of the Lewitt Vacuum Cleaner Company. Nuclear-powered vacuum cleaners will probably be a reality within 10 years. What does that look like, Kev? A nuclear vacuum?
Yeah.
Like, all right, everybody back up. I got to clean the house.
Don't quite understand
what does it do?
How that works. Yeah, because isn't like that? Don't for nuclear energy? Don't you have to have like a reactor? And or am I wrong? I mean, maybe I don't understand nuclear energy, but it seems like
charging this thing at a
portal. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, all right. Do you have like radioactive material inside your vacuum, and you have little Hiroshimas all over the place? People don't take care of their vacuums. Yeah, don't quite get that one either.
All right, here's the funny one. Before man reached, this is 1959. Before man reaches the moon, your mail will be, it seems a lot has to do with the mail. Your mail will be delivered within hours from New York City to Australia by a guided missile. We stand on the threshold of rocket mail. And that's Arthur Summerfield, U.S. Postmaster General. Yeah. So the concept was you attach your letter to a missile and they shoot it. Okay.
Imagine how many wars we get started that way. Dude, no, I was just sending a letter to my girlfriend in Australia. Okay. I'm sorry that it missed.
We didn't need the Iron Dome for that one.
Yeah, exactly. Like, really, Israel again?
Okay. This next one here, these start to get pretty interesting because they're a bit more modern, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and I think it's something that's more relatable to us who kind of saw that kind of shift. So here's 1961. There is practically no chance space satellites will be used to provide better telephone, telegraph, television, or radio service inside the United States. So the idea that these satellites in space or whatever, if that's even a thing, will help with communication at all. So pretty much a flop.
That's the FCC commissioner. That's pretty interesting.
Yes.
So that's someone who wouldn't have a horse in the race. So that's pretty interesting.
So
maybe he was a flat earther. Could have been.
He might have been. Yeah. He doesn't see how this is about. He was like, they think they're going. When was the moon? 69.
60.
They say. So yeah, 69. Yeah. So this was 61. So he's probably like got a big lie coming out. We're producing a great movie to come out in 8 years. Here's the next one, Kev. That this one, I think, in my opinion, is probably the biggest flop. And I think maybe you could argue all of them, but I don't know. I think this one is pretty big. 1966, remote shopping, while entirely feasible, will flop. And that's Time magazine.
Interesting. I wonder why. I mean, what is their reasoning for that? Why would they think that? I don't quite understand.
Because it does.
Because people they assume people wouldn't be able to see the product. I guess that's probably
right. Or you wouldn't be able to. Maybe they were thinking logistics of it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, for people who thought you could rocket a letter across the earth, like,
maybe people were just dumb. Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Maybe they're just not very smart people.
I just ordered something off Amazon the other day. Amazon has gotten to like same day delivery. I've had that happen where you swipe with your finger. It's self-save. So you can swipe with your finger, buy now, and it shows up within a few hours. So.
And how many black children, black slaves had to spend, their back-breaking labor for you to get your product? Think about
Speaking of, whatever. All right. Anyway, 1981. Man, it's hard to pick. So this is 1981. Cellular phones will absolutely not replace your local wire systems. There's no way. Now, I don't know how many people have a landline phone anymore with the old cord.
Well, with a cord?
Your parents do?
Yeah.
I
mean, I have a landline, but it's, it's
a wireless
just battery charge. Yeah, it's wireless.
Yeah. I wonder how many people have that old one where you can only walk like 10 feet with the phone because it's that cord is that curly cord or whatever.
Yeah.
You would call it.
I just remember I would walk across the room. We had one in one of our houses years ago, and I remember walking across the room, and I just hold it across and hope one of my brothers would run through so they'd be clotheslined. Not sure my mom appreciated me using the phone for that. Yeah, they can't do that with a cell phone. So this guy maybe should have been right. Shouldn't have been a cell phone.
All this dopamine, right? I can order whatever I want, and it shows up within hours
on your cell phone.
On my cell phone. 1995. I predict so this is Robert. How would you say that? Metcalf, founder of 3Com. I don't know what that is. I predict the internet will soon go spectacularly supernova in a 1996 catastrophically collapse. So I think there were those thoughts that like this, because people didn't understand how the internet worked. So I think there was that idea that like there will be too many people trying to access it, and it's just going to blow up and we're going to forget about it. It's just going to be like, that was fun for the year it lasted, but forget it. Okay. We're going to jump 10 years to 2005. Steve Chen, the co-founder of YouTube.
Oh, this one's interesting.
This one's great. Expressing concerns about the company's long-term viability. There's just not that many videos I want to watch. Thinking that YouTube is not going to get.
Well, do you remember, Matt? Okay, back in the day, and this was, back in like probably 2005, that this type of time. Do you remember one of the first viral videos was this big chubby guy in his garage pretending to play with a lightsaber? I don't know. Do you remember that? That really sticks with me because I remember that was like the first quote unquote viral video I watched. I'm pretty positive it was on YouTube. I could be wrong.
It wasn't a Vine.
It was a long time ago. Okay, no, that was before Vine, and it was like, and it was like the viral thing. It was just this really dumb video, but it was true back then. You did not have that much content, and it just somehow
you would find
Amazon.
stupid
I think a lot of people don't know. And when some dude loading from his basement, just talking about nothing or whatever. It was very weird content.
because YouTube shifted. Now like I guess you can call them professionals use it for like their actual programs and channels and all of that. Back then it was more so like I'm gonna go outside and have a barbecue and I want to upload a video of it for you to see.
Exactly.
It was kind of like that. It wasn't like I'm gonna watch this documentary on Egypt or whatever. I think it's completely changed.
Well, I think it's just I wonder if that's something that was just kind of luck. Like Amazon kind of looked into their. Or I mean, where they are, it's like one step at a time. They just got break after break after break after break. And YouTube, I think it seemed like kind of the same. Just got break after break, and then got bought by Google, and it is what it is now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because in those days, it was a lot of because remember, if you go back to technology, you couldn't. Not everybody like. You couldn't text video. It sounds crazy. If you're like ancient, you couldn't always text videos to one another. So sometimes you'd have to upload. I remember when I first had like a flip phone or whatever, I couldn't text pictures to my cousins. You would upload it to this site called like TwitPic or Image Shack or there was another one where you would upload the image to a server. Image Shack was one I used, and then you would give the person the link. You would say, click this link and you'll see the picture that I want to show you. So weird. People would have wow. All right. 2006. This is the New York Times here. Everyone's always asking me when Apple will come out with a cell phone, and my answer is probably never. I think the iPhone made its debut in 2007. Let me see here. It did in June of 2007. Yeah, so and this was only a year prior. Apple will never come out with a cell phone. And kind of related in 2007 after the iPhone did come out, Steve Ballmer, the Microsoft CEO at the time, said there's no chance that the iPhone is going to get any significant market share at all.
But see, that one I also understand a bit better because Steve Ballmer, again, is a competitor. He's a direct competitor. So that kind of thing makes more sense than someone from the FCC or something.
There was, and this is just me going by memory here, there's nothing written about this, but BlackBerry was huge because of the physical keyboard, which I actually liked. And when Apple introduced the iPhone, they did it by showing the whole iPhone screen with a keyboard under it on their presentation, and then they erased the keyboard, and then Steve Jobs showed like, look, you touch with your fingers. And there was a whole outcry that won't work. People want to feel the physical keys on their cell phone, and having this whole screen thing is just not going to work. Which, I mean, I get why some of these predictions failed. It's because that was the consensus at the time. People wouldn't want that. Even I think like the cell phone wasn't really meant to be used as like entertainment. Like you it was for work, really. That's what the BlackBerry catered towards. You texted clients and coworkers on that, and you sent work emails, and you stayed up late at night by sending getting projects done for work on your phone and not having to log on. That's what it was for. The whole idea of Instagram and Twitter and Vine and TikTok and all that, it was not the intention at all for
and how wild is that I think it literally is a different effect even that you swipe rather than click. I think it actually has a different effect on your brain, which is it's a crazy thought to see how these things just kind of randomly end up being this way, and then they just end up working. But it is funny that I still think I had a little flip phone when I was 18 years old, and I used to be able to sorry to my teachers and my mom, but I would text. I would have it like under my desk, not all the time, just sometimes I'd have it under the desk.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
I didn't have to look. I could just text with just one hand. I was so much faster texting on this flip phone than any other phone I've ever had in my life. So I just want to say, flip phones, they had their purposes. I could fly with a message on that.
Because if you wanted the letter B, you had to press 2 twice.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? A is once. Oh, I did that. Yeah, you know how to. The original texting and driving.
Yeah. But you didn't have to look because you could just
you could feel it.
You knew it was like, okay, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 3 1 1. Yeah, it was. But you really got into your brain, picked it up pretty quick, and
you did.
There was actually some. Okay, this is a ridiculous thing to say, but there was some skill there.
there was
a stupid skill, but there was a little bit of something there, at least that you had to actually kind of be able to do. Now it's just like, you touch the letters on the screen. So.
I can't. If I turn off autocorrect and I try to type, you get so many words wrong. It's weird.
Yeah,
just the way. But I have my somewhere thrown in a box somewhere. I have my old BlackBerry, which I love that thing.
Nice.
Those phones lasted like a week, but remember you would have to charge it like once a week.
Yeah.
Now my phone doesn't last you would drop it in concrete and it'd be like, it's fine.
So true.
Now these things are shattered and all of that. So yeah, that was technology predictions, Kev. But there's other predictions too. There's maybe we could do it again some other time. But
yeah.
I don't know. I think that strange one was definitely the remote shopping is going to flop. People aren't going to be. Malls are closed. I mean, do people go to the mall? Really? I don't know.
I like the rocket mail. That was my favorite. I think that one could still take off. Unintended. Anyway, everyone, let us know if you liked that type of thing. I mean, it's something that we don't always have to do. Sometimes you can do it, but it's fun. It's kind of like, hey, we can kind of laugh and joke about it. That's something we enjoy. It's often more fun and enjoyable than talking about politics, but I'm sure as this year goes on, we're also going to be talking politics because, well, it is an election season. So that's going to come up too. So you guys are going to have to stick with us through everything. But let us know. But we do really want to know what you like to hear. Do you like to hear politics? Do you like to hear R&R conversations, topical conversations, or stuff like this, or a mix of everything? Let us know in the comments. We appreciate that. That does really help it because, again, Matt and I enjoy just talking with each other, which is true. That's why we're still doing this almost 2 years later.
2 years.
Pretty wild.
I don't feel like that at all.
Nah, it doesn't, man. It still feels like yesterday, man. But we do want to do it for you guys. You're the ones we're doing it for. So let us know what you like to hear, and we will do our best to oblige. So until next week, Matt, you have a good time. And we're gonna be, when everyone's listening to this, it is going to be a holiday for us. Everyone else is probably at work, so tough.
Like me.
Tough luck, Americans. Yeah. Anyway, have a good week. Everybody out there, you do as well, please. We'll see you next Monday. Let us know what you want us to talk about. And we might do it. We might not. We might talk about rocket mail. Right? Who knows? All right. Until then, Matt, God bless.